Hammond Redevelopment Commission meeting to order on this Tuesday, March 3rd, 2015. It is now 4:33. Can you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? Thank you. Okay, roll call on the commissioners.
Here.
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 Here. All five are present, no absent. Okay, number 3, declaration of conflict of interest. Okay, 4, I will ask. Communications. Okay, number 5, our minutes.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes for the Hammond Redevelopment Commission for February 17, 2015. I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the minutes. Is there any more discussion or questions or corrections on these minutes? Okay, can we have a roll call then on the minutes?
Yes.
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 Yes. Minutes pass. 5 yes. Okay, number 6, homebound conditional forgivable loan approval.
Commissioners, this is for 4 homebound conditional forgivable loan approvals, and they are all here today.
Okay, could they come forward, please?
And then just to let you know, Mr. Campos is receiving $3,500. He's a police officer in East Chicago, so he gets $3,500 from the city of Hammond.
Very good.
That was one of my questions.
Beat you to it.
Yeah, teachers and I think police and
Police
firemen.
officers, firefighters, doesn't matter where, as long as they're buying in Hammond, they get $3,500.
So, Ms. Vega, how did you hear about the program?
Basically, my realtor who I'm going through mentioned that Hammond does the home.
Who's your realtor?
His name is Manny Hernandez.
Manny's your realtor? Okay, I know Manny. What about Mr. Campos?
I have no.
I'm sorry, Mr. Campos.
Yeah, I have no realtor. I'm going strictly to the owner.
Okay, but
He's actually buying the house that he lives in already. So he already lives in Hammond, he's buying that house that he's been living in.
That's correct.
Well, we're gonna just keep going down the road. Ms. Herrick, is that how you pronounce your name?
Rick?
Rick? Okay, how did you hear about the program?
I heard about it through Horizon Bank, through my loan officer,
Who's your loan officer?
Mike.
You don't know.
Remember his last
What was the bank? What was the bank again?
name? Horizon.
Horizon. I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
You do a lot with us. And then last but not least, Ms. Hughes, how did you hear about the program?
Through my realtor at Remax, Jeff.
You don't know? Now, see, I'm a realtor, so I always like to know.
I remember you.
You remember me?
From the class.
Oh, you know, I've been getting a lot of that lately. I don't remember everybody, but people remember me.
It was too many.
Pardon?
It was too many to remember.
Okay. So did you enjoy the class?
Yes, I did.
Class?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Anybody else?
What class are you talking about?
They all have to attend a first-time homebuyers workshop, which is a one-day class for 8 hours.
And what they do is like they have a realtor come in, they have someone, a lender come in, they have a home inspector come in, and you know, we just.
First time.
Good thing.
Good to know. Yeah. Good.
So I do it here and then I do it in Gary as well.
It's a good class for all of them to learn information about first-time home buying.
Good luck to you all.
Thank you.
Nobody else has any questions?
Nope.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the homebound conditional forgivable loan approval for the 4 applicants.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the homebound conditional forgivable loan approval. Since there's no more questions, can we have a roll call then, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passes, 5 yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, number 7, home program conditional loan approval for Lori Ebner at 7413 Howard.
This is a home program loan approval for Laura Ebner. She is here as well. Laura, you want to come up?
Ms. Hammond, has this program, has the loan program been explained to you? Do you understand it?
Yes.
And do you understand that the Hammond Redevelopment Commission only provides the funding? We do not guarantee or warranty the contractor or the contractor's work? And you have to
Yes.
do your own due diligence as far as that?
I've had many conversations with Gary. Probably for a whole year.
Okay. Do you have any questions for us?
I do not.
You do not.
I do not. Just thank you, and I'm super excited.
Congratulations.
Laura actually also got a NIP grant from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis, so she's also receiving a grant from them for $10,000. As long as she lives there for 5 years, it's forgiven.
Good for you. Good for you.
Commissioners, have we had any experience with AM Contractors LLC? Or Phil?
I'm sorry.
Have we had any past experience with AM Contractors in this case, or?
Yes, we've worked with AM Contractors in the past. Obviously, for our home rehab program, we have certain groups that we work with. They have to be qualified. And part of that is having an understanding of a federally funded program. So yes, we have worked with AM Contractors.
Good to know.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion for the home program conditional loan approval for Laura Abner for 7413 Howard. Second.
We have a motion and a second for the home program conditional loan approval for Laura Abner at 7413 Howard. Is there any more questions or discussion? Okay, then roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes, 5 yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Laura.
On the screen. Thank you.
Okay, number 8, approval of revised 2015 redevelopment budget.
Commissioners, actually, we were just discussing it. It says approval, but this is not for approval. This is for information purposes only. We don't need any action taken on this. This is just to give you an idea of where the redevelopment budget is and some of the changes that we've made for some of the newer commissioners. It seems as though every year we're getting a little less. For redevelopment, obviously, is its own separate taxing entity. And so we're constantly trying to figure out where we can make cuts and how we could still move forward with our budget and make sure the most important integral things are still getting done. So this is basically our latest version. But there's no action
Do
necessary.
we need to move to postpone it or to come back to it, or just for review material?
Just for review material, really for information for the redevelopment commissioners.
Then I thank Ms. Janiga for all her hard work.
Karen, who is sitting to my left, is our finance manager and has been for a number of years, and she does a great job. And it's especially difficult when you do get a budget that keeps decreasing every year when Karen and I have to sit down and try and figure out, all right, what are we cutting this year? So it's a constant struggle, but we keep moving forward and getting everything done that needs to be done, so.
It is a constant challenge, but, you know. Okay, then, it sounds like it was informational purposes, and thank you, Phil, and then we'll move on to number 9. approval of purchase agreement and development agreement for ATG Real Estate Development LLC.
Mr. President and members of the commission, you'll remember back in November, I believe it was, we had 2 3.5 acre parcels on the north side of Carlson Drive and Oxbow Landing that we had 2 developers looking at doing a 3-story grade A office building at the time in November, both of which signed option agreements for 2 separate 3.5 acre parcels. They were going to go right next to each other, and they would actually kind of front 8094 and the on-ramp. I know, I'm trying to talk to them, though. So, towards the middle of January, both developers came to us and asked for an extension through the end of February because they were both still going through the process of the due diligence and everything else. Here we are March 2nd, and on February 26th, right before the option expired for both of them, one of the 2, and that's ATG, came forward and signed the development agreement and purchase agreement, which were attached to the option agreement that you approved back in November. Essentially, ATG is proposing to build a 3-story office building with a total investment of somewhere between $5.5 and $6.5 million. That includes the sale of the land, which is part of the purchase agreement, and you'll see, I believe that comes to, and I haven't done the math in a long time, but it's about $147,000 an acre for 3.5.
So this is just an extension of something we've already approved?
Well, it's the finalization of something you've already approved. You've already approved the option agreement, which attached these 2 documents as exhibits. And what you have is a purchase agreement that calls for the sale of 3.5 acres for $497,000 to close within a month. So, or I think by April 10th is the actual date. And a development agreement which provides for incentives to the developer of $1.6 million on a $5.5 to $6.5 million project. And for that, you're going to wind up with 36,000, was it?
36,000.
36,000 square feet of Class A office space that I know he's marketing to doctors, lawyers, professional businesses. And so what we're looking for is your approval of both the purchase agreement and the development agreement. The next steps, obviously, will be to kind of move the development agreement through the council and to start the bond process.
Commissioners, I don't have any questions, and unless somebody does, I would move we approve same.
Second.
I agree, it's a exciting project, you know, that will, hopefully will caption a lot of tenants here for the city of Hammond.
I can tell you, it's the only first class or Class A office space on 8094 over a long stretch of property. You know, I mean, not only Lake County, but most of Porter. I mean, you can't find it. So this is...
You drive out to Illinois and you see all the corridor exits with all these fancy high-rise office buildings, and we don't have anything like that.
And beyond that, it's the only Class A office building that we'll have in Hammond, in the city of Hammond. And I was speaking to, the media a little earlier today about the agenda, and he asked, well, what exactly is a Class A office building as opposed to, you know, Class B and Class C? And so I just printed this out, just so you understand that it stated, these buildings represent the newest and highest quality buildings in the market. They are generally the best looking buildings with the best construction and possess high quality building infrastructure. Class A buildings also are well located, have good access, and are professionally managed. As a result of this, they attract the highest quality tenants and a command for the highest rents. And so this is something we've been working on for a very long time. We're excited to have this development. We think it fits in very well with Oxbow, with some of the other uses there. And in the end, we believe this development is going to help attract others to the remaining parcels that we have at this site. So we're very excited.
That said, we have a motion and a second on the floor for approval, purchase agreement and development agreement for ATG Real Estate and Development LLC. If there's no more questions or discussion on this, can we have a roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passes 5 yes. Okay, number 10, acceptance of proposal to prepare the Calumet Avenue and Kennedy Avenue expansion areas to the Gateway redevelopment area.
Commissioners, just as I was excited about the previous item, I'm very excited about this item. We had talked in the past about the Oxbow Landing area, and specifically called the Gateway's TIF. As we continue to move forward with projects and we start getting to what potentially could be considered the tail end of development that's going to occur at Oxbow Landing, or at least development that we may use incentives at Oxbow Landing, and not 100%, but potentially, we knew that at some point we were going to look at expanding the redevelopment area beyond just Oxbow Landing and right off Indianapolis Boulevard across from Cabela's, what some people would refer to as the old Kmart building, otherwise known as Gateway Promenade. So this is something we've been talking about a long time, and I'll have a little bit more to say about it, but first, if we could have Mr. Dan Bowditch come forward from Sender and Company to talk a little bit about the proposal of these two plans. For the newer commissioner, we've worked with Sender and Company. They are a financial consultant for the city of Hammond. We use them on all kinds of projects. They're exceptional at what they do, and we're excited to have these proposals from them.
Thank you, Mr. Talon. We are pleased to submit this proposal, or actually two proposals, to the Hammond Redevelopment Commission for the expansion of the Gateway's redevelopment area for the purpose of expanding the area for the Kennedy Avenue corridor, which generally at this time is identified as both sides of the Kennedy Avenue right-of-way for commercial purposes from I-8094, the Borman, through and up to the north of 165th Street, and including the surrounding intersection parcels, or what would be known as the Freddy's Steakhouse area intersection. And that would be for Kennedy Avenue. Now, expanding over to the west for the Gateway's purposes would be the Calumet Avenue corridor. Similarly, commercial parcels on either side of Calumet Avenue from I-8094, the Borman, to the north being 165th Street. The Gateway's redevelopment area was established approximately, I want to say going back in history and remembering as best I can, in about 2005, and designated in 2006 with an allocation area in 2009 or 10, 11. I'll stand corrected, 11. But for the purposes of economic development. And as you can see, the fruits of that proactive approach has been identified through the development that's occurring at the Oxbow Landing with the BW3 and new development of a Class 1 office building, as well as other prospects locating in the area. So the intent for the expansion was for the area to be expanded for the two corridors to encompass the Kennedy Avenue to the north, as well as extension of that gateway north, as well as the Kennedy Avenue gateway on the west. The intent is that the three plans working together under the guise or the addendum of one plan under the Gateway's redevelopment area with two addendums, Kennedy Avenue corridor addendum and a Calumet Avenue addendum, would work in concert together to provide economic development land use planning, redevelopment land use planning, as well as identifying projects and programs for implementation, as well as acting as the support for projects that become before the Redevelopment Commission, much like, and to use an example, as the Class A office building at Oxbow Landing. What occurs for Redevelopment Commission purposes, for the members' purposes, what occurs when those developments come before the Redevelopment Commission or the city, the first plans that they look at are the comprehensive plan for the city. Secondly, if it's in a redevelopment or economic development area, they look at that land use plan for how development is to occur. And everything that is going to happen occurs based upon that plan, the comprehensive plan, and or the redevelopment or economic development plan. So this action is really being proactive in expanding your gateways to both Kennedy Avenue Commercial Corridor and the Calumet Avenue Corridor. They are separate because we've identified that the Kennedy Avenue Corridor truly does not act as, although it acts as a minor arterial, its length ends just north of 165th, basically at the State Route 20, where the overpass is located. Typically, individuals who get off at Kennedy Avenue will travel north as far as 165th, and it's a neighborhood corridor for neighborhood commercial purposes, except for the immediate commercial uses off the interchange. Now, as opposed to Calumet Avenue acts more as a major arterial with a long traverse of traffic, basically from the lakeshore all the way through to Dyer. So individuals exiting the Borman will go as north as the lakefront or as far south as Dyer, so that the capture amount of cars is a much higher degree of average daily traffic. So we would treat that corridor pretty much as an arterial or major corridor intersection that has a higher volume of traffic or propensity for additional development to occur. That is why they're two separate addendum plans to the expansion. We intend to look at not only the land use, but the redevelopment and economic development opportunities, identify planned projects and programs for the implementation, which would also include financial incentivization of any programs that may be identified. We would identify the planning uses and issues and obstacles for the purposes of overcoming those in future development that may occur, whether it be access, multiple properties under different ownership, putting those properties and consolidating them under one ownership in the future potentially. Land use acquisition. The Redevelopment Commission does not have eminent domain. However, you can identify properties for purchase so that you can put the properties under one. So if you had 3 or 4 parcels that are adjacent to each other, consolidate those so that development is more apt to occur in the corridors. Identify the zoning or any zoning changes that may be required, as well as implementation of the plan itself. So really going through what we have done in the past up for the North Hammond redevelopment area, what we call the Cabela's or Woodmar Gateway, or for Gibson Yards. We've done this in the past for the Redevelopment Commission as far as redevelopment, economic development planning, but it's really the next step to be proactive in these 2 corridors. Our intent is, in working with Phil, to have the plans for presentation at your June 3rd meeting. At that point, the Commission may take action to approve a declaratory resolution on each plan and move it forward to officially adopt those plans for formal approval and move those on. And that's the bell for me to stop, so I will stop at that point. But it's basically us working to draft and prepare the plans for your presentation, as well as getting them through the approval process, which would include the Redevelopment Commission. It would then go to the Plan Commission, has to then go to the City Council, then back to the Redevelopment Commission for a public hearing, and at that point, everything can be confirmed and the plan is finalized. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
I think you articulated it extremely well.
The bell stopped me.
If you'd be so kind. Of course, it's exciting to improve the gateways, and we're all fans of that. But in a layman's term, if whatever the company might be, what advantage does that give to a commercial property? I mean, I don't know what. Let's look at the other way. Let's look at Munster, Panera Bread. If we wanted them to come to our side of the road, Do they get an advantage because we've designated this as such? Or or we're just saying here that we're giving you the authority to plan the future?
Correct, but it also allows for the potential for the designation of an allocation area for which tax increment or incremental assessed value is captured, and that becomes tax increment, which can then be used to financially incentivize projects. So for example, if I will just use this as an example, there is no prospect out there, but at one of the quadrants in Calumet Avenue, just off the Borman on the north, where there are properties that may not be in one ownership, the tax increment may be used to purchase those parcels if a willing seller, willing buyer, to put those properties under one ownership, and then work with a developer to develop the property commercially with the goal or the objectives of the plan in mind, as well as the comprehensive plan. So it's working proactively as well as reactively. So as prospects come before the city or the commission, you have a plan in mind rather than being reactive after the fact, or working with a developer up front and identifying that market for a particular land use. So identifying a Panera and saying, we have this land, to use a better example, would be a CVS or a Walgreens or a drugstore. We have this intersection. We know you'd like to locate at this particular intersection. We have the land available. Would you be interested? So it's both ways, proactive and reactive from both depends on which side of the development you're looking at from.
Commissioner,
which perspective.
you brought up Munster. An example, for example, in Munster of where they used a redevelopment area and or allocation area, two come to mind right away. One is where there's quite a large strip mall on Calumet Avenue by Panera, including a number of restaurants, and you're probably familiar with the one I'm speaking of. Has Chipotle in there, and Firehouse Subs, and Big and Little Shoes, or whatever else they have in there. That was all done through a redevelopment area, allocation area. So then, because you have this plan in place, you have economic development tools that you can use to incentivize potentially a developer to move forward with a project of that scale. Another one in Calumet Avenue is the industrial complex that was completed, or is not completed, but is pretty close. And again, only because you brought up Munster. And I don't know what the exact name of the commercial or industrial complex is, but it's also on Calumet Avenue, not too far across from Munster Community Hospital, where quite a bit of industrial development has occurred. And again, it's because they had a plan and an allocation area in place, it gives them tools. It doesn't mean you're going to use every single one of them, but it means because you start generating increment, and especially potentially by expanding the Oxbow and Gateway TIF area, it's going to potentially give us dollars for infrastructure type improvements for Kennedy and Calumet Avenue. Our department consists of three areas, which is economic development, community development, and planning. When we came into 2015 and we basically sat down as the department heads and talked about what we've done, one thing that we saw that we could actually do a better job of in the future is planning. We have a lot of economic development projects that are happening, and a lot of people notice that. Community development, we offer services and programs, and we help a lot of people, there's no doubt about it. One thing we wanted to do is start doing a little bit more planning for the future. And that's why you're going to start seeing not only these two plans, but also there was an article in the newspaper about a rail plan that we're talking about with the IHB, because they see a lot of potential around their rail property, and they want us to potentially create a more specific plan that tailors to rail-like businesses. So this is something we're kind of putting on ourselves this year, that we need to do more of this. And I would say a lot of people think Kennedy Avenue and Calumet Avenue need a facelift, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. A plan like this, once you put it in place, could take 10 to 20 years before you hit the vision of what you're looking to do. But until you put this in place, you don't have all the tools that you need or potentially need to accomplish the goals that you see at those two corridors, specifically these two corridors for the purposes of this meeting. So I hope that makes sense.
Is that in layman's terms?
I was just simplifying.
It provides not only the planning, but the financialization resources available.
And it's just where we start.
If you,
Layman's terms.
if you think I did a better job than Mr. Bowditch, I would agree with you. Yes.
And just so that you know, as commissioners, you cannot do enough planning. And the city of Hammond does well in planning, but just like our United States and Constitution says, we are trying to create a more perfect union. We are trying here to create a more perfect Hammond by planning and getting ready for future development.
Well put, I like that.
You know, we
Sure,
have,
Brian, Mr. Pullum would like that.
did you want to come up, Brian? I asked Brian to attend as our city planner as well, but did you want to say a few words in regards to this?
Good evening, everybody. One of the things that, if you start to think about planning, you know, it's a very simple concept of who are we, what do we want, and how do we want to get it? And with the who are we is really a lot of your demographic analysis. And what do we want is really what I think part of what this document is. And when you think about the gateway development that we have, our gateways, it's really trying to understand how we see ourselves as a community. These are the areas that most people arrive by our city from coming through the expressway, getting off on the interchanges, and so it's how they perceive our community. So when you take an opportunity to plan, you can start looking at those corridors. How do we make ourselves look better? And then, of course, the Redevelopment Commission comes in with the incentives, and that's how we actually accomplish it. A lot of this is also hand in hand with the Plan Commission. If we need to look at some of our current regulations to help carry out some of those goals, that's what we can do. It's also part of, you know, the comprehensive planning process, because there is that coordination between the Redevelopment Commission plans and our comprehensive plans. So with looking at our gateways and then those corridors of Calumet Avenue, Kennedy Avenue, I think it's a great opportunity for us to take us to the next level, take us where we want to be in the future, and make a better community for ourselves.
Well said, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. You as well, Dan. Thank you for.
Any other questions, please?
Very well explained.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion for the acceptance of the proposal to prepare the Calumet Avenue and Kennedy Avenue expansions areas to the Gateways redevelopment area.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the acceptance of the proposals to prepare the Calumet Avenue and Kennedy Avenue expansion areas to the Gateways redevelopment area. Can we have a roll call then on that, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes. 5 yes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, number 11, our reports. You're up again, Mr. Talon.
Thank you. With the approval of that last item, I think you're going to generate a lot of excitement. I know I've spoken to some of the different groups in the city, such as the Hessville Crime Watch Group and Indy Illy Group, and they don't just focus on crime watch. They're also looking. They understand that with economic development and creation of jobs, typically you'll see a reduction in crime because more people are working. So I know that as I speak to these groups, and I'm going to be speaking to the Hessville Crime Watch this month, I'm going to be speaking to the Indy Illy Crime Watch Group in April, I think they're going to find there's going to be a lot of excitement about these plans. And I think some people will say it's a long time coming. So I appreciate you passing it today, and obviously you'll be, as things keep moving forward with these, they'll come in front of Redevelopment Commission. But with cities, with a city like Hammond, that's, you know, a 125-year-old city, redevelopment is one of the most important bodies in the city, because a lot of our projects that occur in the city are going to be redevelopment, because we don't have a lot of acreage that is not in use. So you're going to have to take parcels that have older buildings on them and possibly have some issues with the potential contamination from a previous business that was there. And that's why it's going to be true redevelopment projects. So again, I don't want to, but I'm very excited about this project. Specifically, I'm from Hessville in the city, and obviously I care about the entire city, but Hessville stays close to the heart because that's where I grew up, and I think you're going to find that there's a lot of excitement all over the city for these two plans. Really, I don't have too much else to report. Obviously, as some of you are aware, because you were there, Planet Fitness opened, I believe, less than 4 or 5 days ago. And some of you were in attendance for the Planet Fitness ribbon cutting. Thank you for that. I think you're going to see more things occurring at the Gateway Promenade area, which is the old Kmart site. It's another good, I think it's a business that a lot of citizens in Hammond or residents in Hammond are interested in using, and I've heard a lot of excitement from it. So we're excited about that. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer. I spoke too much today.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Ms. Awana Miller, would you like to share anything tonight?
Yeah, I have a few things. I'm currently in the process of closing out the 2014-2015 budget. And with that closeout, we'll be conducting some final monitorings of our social service agencies, which should be completed by the end of the month. I'm also beginning the stages of preparing our CAPER report, which is an evaluation report that HUD requires for us to submit to them by June 1st. It's a lot of information, so I have to start definitely early. I'm also working with the State Board of Accounts. They're conducting our annual audit of our CDBG and NSP program. So I hope that we'll be closing that out soon. They've been with us, I believe, for about maybe a month and a half. So I look forward to hearing from them as to what changes and additions we need to make. And it only helps us in our department. Just some community reminders. This Thursday is our disabilities breakfast. The commission and Cynthia has done a phenomenal job on the program. Their theme this year is Love Where You Live. It's going to take place at the Dynasty, 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock. We're also working on our annual prayer breakfast that will take place May the 7th at the Dynasty. Our annual Realtors Breakfast will take place May 28th at the Lost Marsh Golf Course. And last but not least, I'm working on the Hammers for Hearts program. Just a little update about that. The work camp has approximately 175 students that have signed up for the camp. We've interviewed and taken applications for about 35 homeowners in the city, and those will be all packaged up and sent to Colorado for the final decisions on which houses that they're going to be able to do by the middle of April. The work camp will take place in June 21st through the 27th.
Thank you for the information and the dates, upcoming things. Number 12, our bills.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to pay the Register of Claims. February 11th through February 25th, 2015. Register of Claims 51639 through 51672.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the Register of Claims. Is there any questions or discussion?
Did I say R51?
Yeah.
Okay, I meant R51.
Yep, R51639 through R51672. Is there any questions or discussion on these claims? call on the bills.
Yes.
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 Yes. Bills pass. 5 yes. Okay, number 13, new and unfinished business. Okay, can you come forward, Brian?
As a part of, I know you approved the development agreement for, is it ATR?
ATG.
ATG, thank you. We are trying to get the subdivision plat for that property finalized, and I just want to make sure that nobody leaves until you sign some of the documents that I have for that. Okay?
Okay, we'll make sure we stick around for that. Okay, number 14, public comment. 3 minutes. Okay, public comment closed. Number 15.
Mr. President, I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Can you all signify by saying ayes? Aye. Ayes have it, meeting adjourned.